Turn with me in your Bibles to Luke chapter 15, the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15. Luke chapter 15, and we want to begin reading at verse 11. Luke 15 and verse 11. Then he said, "A certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me.' So he divided to them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in that land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck, kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and sandals on his feet. And bring the fatted calf here and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found.' And they began to be merry." In January of 1989, Brian Creddy was working as a bartender at Tia's Tex-Mex restaurant out on Midway Road. One Monday in that month, about 11:30 a.m., he happened to notice a zipper-locked bag outside of the restaurant lying by a trash bin. Now, it so happened that one of Brian's jobs at Tia's was to put all of the bank deposits into a bag just like that, put it in the safe, and wait for it to be picked up by an armored car company. So Brian knew exactly what he was looking at. In fact, the name of the restaurant to which the bag belonged was on it. And a bank deposit slip indicated that the bag contained $9,856.42. Now, Brian Creddy would not have been human if the thought had not crossed his mind that he could just pick the bag up and walk away with it, and no one might ever know the difference. But he said later, "I knew that I couldn't have lived with that. I knew it wouldn't have been right." And so he picked up the bag and he took it in to Joe Lloyd, the manager of Tia's, who called the armored car company in the restaurant to which the bag belonged. After a while, the armored car company came and picked it up. Apparently, one of their couriers had dropped it without realizing it as he was doing his pickup rounds. After that, Brian Creddy just went home to his residence in Farmers Branch, and he lay down in his bed. And it was apparently there for the first time that he began to imagine all of the things he might have done with that money. And right up at the top of the list was a brand new Mustang or a brand new Chevrolet Corvette. At an interview at the restaurant, he told a reporter that there was a kind of a giddiness, a kind of a nice half-headed happiness that he had felt when he had all that money in his hands, even though it was in his hands for only a very brief time. But the bottom line remained the same. There wasn't going to be any new Mustang. There wasn't going to be a new Chevrolet Corvette, because the money was gone. The money was gone. It had been returned to its proper owners. Now, frankly, friends, I could hope that each of us, if we were confronted by a situation like that, would show the same honesty as was shown by Brian Credit. But wouldn't you agree with me that the chances are very good that holding that much money in our hands would be kind of exciting? And if it were taken away, if it were lost or stolen, we would certainly feel disappointed. We would certainly feel let down. We might even feel just a little bit depressed because the money was gone. And this morning I want you to look carefully with me at the story of a young man to whom something bad happened, and then to whom something good happened. And his story ends with feasting and music and happiness. But across that lovely, bright, and sunny conclusion to his story, there hangs a long, dark, slender shadow. And that shadow could be described with these words: but the money was gone. And as you may already have guessed, that's the title of my message to you this morning. My title this morning is this: but the money was gone. Now, I strongly suspect that just about everybody in my audience this morning is very familiar with this story. This may, in fact, be the best known of all the stories that Jesus told, which are recorded in the New Testament. And we all know that we call this story the story of the prodigal son. But before you decide that you know all there is to know about the story, and can therefore go comfortably asleep while I preach it to you, let me just ask you a question. Did you realize that there is a very good chance that the prodigal son was a teenager? That the prodigal son was a teenager. You know why? I understand that it was customary in those days for young men to be married somewhere between the ages of 18 and 20. And very often their parents arranged for these marriages, especially the parents that were wealthy. And obviously this young man had a wealthy father. But apparently no marriage had yet been arranged for him. Apparently he leaves the family farm by himself. He returns to the family farm by himself. And this leads to the suggestion that the prodigal son may have been about 17 years of age. 17 years of age. Do I need to tell anybody in this audience this morning that the 17th year of a person's life can be one of the most spiritually dangerous years of their entire career? In fact, the late teenage years are particularly dangerous for Christian kids. And if you are just turning 17 this morning, or if you are already 17, then welcome to Temptation, Texas. Welcome to Dangerview, USA. So you see, here was a young man, maybe no older than 17. And he comes to his dad one day and he says something like this. He says, "Dad, I know that I'm going to get a lot of money when you're old and you die. But I don't want to wait for that. I would like you to divide your inheritance between me and my brother right now, so I can have some money now." Now please remember that under the Jewish law of inheritance, if a family had two sons like this family did, the oldest son inherited about twice as much as the youngest son. So this younger son was looking forward to about 1/3 of his father's wealth and property. Now apparently also there were arrangements that could be made to give an heir his inheritance up front. But it seems likely that if that happened, he didn't get the full inheritance yet. The father, for example, would keep the property, the middle of the property. So if, like this boy, the boy was looking forward to maybe 1/3 or 3/9 of his father's inheritance, maybe he turned up with 2/9 if he took it early. But whatever the amount was that he was planning to receive, he wanted it. He wanted it. And did you notice the father of this kid doesn't say to him, "That is just about the dumbest request you've ever made in your entire life. Have you forgotten that you're 17? Why, you've never had anywhere near that amount of money to manage. And I know how you are. You're not mature yet. You're not responsible yet. I don't dare put that much money in your hand. You'll go out and waste it for sure. No siree, come see me when you're a lot older than you are right now." He didn't do that. Doesn't that sound like a father? Come on, folks. Aren't there thousands of fathers who would have said something like that? But according to Jesus' story, the father doesn't say a thing. He simply divides his livelihood between his two sons. Wouldn't you know it? I mean, you could have predicted it from square one. After only a short time, this young man turns all of his inheritance. It may have been jewels, it may have been sheep and goats, it may have been a lot of them. He turns it all into money. And he leaves home, taking all that money with him. And he's attracted by the bright lights of the city, the faraway country. And he goes there, he's on his own, he's out from under his father's control. And the Bible says, Jesus says, he wasted his possessions, living prodigally. And again, did you notice? When he walks out the door, the dad is not there blocking. When he walks through the gate of the farm, his dad is not there sticking out a leg to trip him up. He lets him go. Dear Christian parents, this morning, when your kid reaches 17, 18, 19, you have effectively lost control of their lives. And if you have not yet instilled in them your standards, your commitment to God, your love for Him, you won't do it when they reach 17. Now let's be honest about this, shall we? It's hard. In our society today, and in our culture today, it's hard to raise a kid who will not go astray when he reaches his late teenage years. That is difficult. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. But here's what it will take. First of all, it will take tons and tons and tons of prayer, beginning when they are very, very young and continuing throughout all the years of their life. Here's something else it will take. It will take sitting down with them one-on-one, starting very early in their life, and opening your heart to them and sharing your love for God, your commitment to God's Word, and your heart's desire that they should live for God as well. It takes doing that over and over again through the years that they are growing up. And here's something else it takes, folks. It takes living before them a godly and consistent Christian life. And if your kids figure out that you're a hypocrite, and that you wear one personality on Sunday, you wear another personality the other 6 days of the week, you have lost the ball game. You've lost the ball game. Right there. And if you have failed to do this in the growing years of your kids, then when they become teenagers, when they become determined to wander away from God and from the standards that you hoped they would follow, you really will not be able to stop them, no matter what you do. No matter what rules you lay down. No matter how many times you ground them. No matter how tightly you pull the purse string. No matter how many times you give them the $75 lecture. By that time, out of necessity, they will go if they decide to go. So in our story, the father didn't try to stop his son from leaving. He had to go. And in this, folks, we learn something very significant about God, our Heavenly Father. You see, when any of us believe in the Lord Jesus Christ for the free gift of everlasting life, we're born into God's family. We become God's sons and God's daughters. And maybe many of you were saved when you were very young, and as you were growing up, you sort of said to yourself, I love God. When I grow up, I'm going to serve God. But then as you reached your teenage years, you looked at things differently. The far country of sin, with all of its excitements and bright lights, looked so good to you. So maybe you walked away from God. Maybe you turned your back on His Word. Maybe you even left church. And you know what? God didn't try to stop you. He didn't lock the door of the church. He didn't send a posse of angels to corral you and arrest you and bring you back. He didn't zap you to the ground with a bolt of lightning. What did He do? He let you go. God let you go. Well, I kind of suspect, friends, that at first it was great out there at the far country. I mean, you're the teenager, probably loaded with money. So it's showtime. It's playtime. What's on the schedule is wine, dinner, and song. Plenty of it. And then, one morning he wakes up and guess what, folks? The money is gone. The money is gone. This kid has spent his last shekel. He can't remember where he did it. It might have been in the beer joint the night before. It might have been that he spent it on the gown. But it's gone. And it's pretty hard to buy food. We don't have any money. To make things worse, the far country was in a period of economic recession. It was famine time in the far country. And when you have a famine, the food prices shoot up. And jobs are scarce. This guy is desperate. And he finally finds a citizen in that country that'll hire him. Not very much of a job, in fact, from the standpoint of the Jews, the lowest job of the low. For Jews, pigs were unclean and their meat was forbidden by the law of Moses. And here is this young fella. He finds a man who will send him out to the field, and his job is to feed pigs. He about having pork chops from the pig. They're not worried about ham and bacon, folks. He is so hungry. He would be glad to eat some of the slop. Some of the slop that the pigs are eating. And he sits there watching the pigs munching happily on those carrot pods that came from the carrot tree. They probably didn't taste like anything. And the kid is watering the mouth. He loves to get one of those carrot pods. If only somebody would give it to him. And then guess what happened? Jesus says, he came from the south. It was kind of like waking up out of a bad dream. It was kind of like having skyrunning in the sky. And this young fellow said, what a fool! What a fool I am! What am I doing out here? When I went to hired service back at my father's farm, they had full meals, and they had food left over. And I'm out here sitting next to the pigs, and I'm jealous because they got slop. And I have nothing. I know what I got to do. I got to go home. I got to go back to my dad. I got to apologize to him and tell him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and in your sight. You don't need to treat me like a son anymore. Just put me on as one of your hired servants, and I'll pay for everything you give me. And isn't it obvious, my friends? Isn't it obvious why the father let the kid be the father? What good would it be to the father to force his kid to live where his kid didn't want to live? When he let him go, you better believe the father was hoping that someday this kid would wake up and he would say, I'd rather be back home with Dad than where I am right now. When you drift away from God, that's why God lets you go. He's not going to tie you up and nail you to the pulpit. He's not going to hold you a prisoner. What good is that to God if you don't want to have fellowship with Him? Why should He force it? But don't you see? Out in the far country, you can learn what life is all about. Hopefully, out in the far country, you will wake up. Maybe before you wake up, you'll crash and burn. That's what this kid did. He crashed and burned. But he woke up. And he went home. Now listen, parents. If you have kids that have gone astray, that's what you need to hope for, or more than hope for. That's what you need to pray for. Every day. Every single day of your life. Pray that God will wake that kid up and make him realize that it is better to be close to God than far away in sin. So what did this young boy do? Well, he did just exactly what he decided. He left the far country. He went back to the farm. And as he walked through the door, there was his dad standing with his arms open and a dark frown on his face. Dad says, well, it's about time. Look, you're a mess. And that tunic you're wearing is just a collection of rags. Your face and your hair look like they haven't been taken care of for months. And look at your feet and ankles, they're caked with mud. Where have you been? Out of the pigsty? Hey, there are a lot of parents, a lot of fathers that would greet their returning children that way. Am I right? You better believe it. You see, they're still angry at the kid. They're angry because that kid has disappointed them, caused them heartache, caused them trouble, caused them embarrassment. And they can't wait until the kid comes crawling back on his hands and knees, begging for help. And when he does, Dad's going to go nuclear. Dad is going to go nuclear. He's going to blow up. There'll be shrapnel all over the place. But not this father. Not this father. Apparently he looked down that road every day, maybe many times. And on this particular day, at a far distance, he saw a figure that he thought he recognized. And his heart was stirred with compassion and sympathy. And then he did something that was very undignified for an elderly Jewish man to do. He ran. He ran down that pathway. When he reached his son, he threw both arms around his neck, planted kisses on each of his cheeks. And the son is probably embarrassed by this. This was not the greeting he was expecting to receive, and he feels unworthy of it. And it is part of what he wanted to say. Father, he said, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I don't deserve to be called your son. The father apparently listens to this in silence, and when they get back to the barn, he gives his answer by saying to the servants, bring out the best robe, put it on him, get a lovely ring and put it on his hand, and get a new pair of sandals and put them on his feet. And then the rest of you, hurry, hurry, hurry. Kill the fatted calf that we've been preparing. Prepare a dinner such as we haven't had here in a long time, because tonight we're going to be happy. Because this son of mine was so far away from me, it was just as if he was dead. Now he's alive, I've got him back. And this son of mine was lost. And today, I found him. And maybe you're saying, as you listen to the close of this story, that's wonderful. That's the way God does it. If I have a kid, that's the way I hold on to it. Come back. Maybe you're saying, it's a great ending because everything is just exactly like it was before. Everything is just as it was before. No. No, it's not. Things are not just as they were before. Oh yes, everybody is happy, peaceful. But the money was wrong. This kid left the farmhouse loaded with money. He comes back a beggar. And yes, my friends, when a Christian goes astray from God, God will certainly receive them back as soon as they repent. But a Christian who is away from God is always spending money. They're always spending money. I'm not talking about literal money. I'm talking about spending the time and the energy and the abilities that could be used to lay up treasure in heaven, that could be used to win eternal reward. Oh yes, God will receive the Christian back. But the rewards that could have been won will be lost forever. Now remember this. God is gracious and God is forgiving. But the days that we waste will never come back to us again. The money will be gone. Some years ago, don't know how many years, at the State Fair of Texas, there was a young boy, I would say probably teenage, who was displaying a prized hog. The hog was big and fat, and sleek and comfortable, and the boy was skinny. He had a bad complexion, and it looked like he was trying to set a record smoking as many cigarettes as he could smoke in the shortest amount of time. The owner of the hog, the prize-winning hog, was the father of the boy. He was a champion at raising his hog and a failure at raising his son. Parents, would you like to know how to raise a prodigal son or a prodigal daughter? Here's how you do it. Never pray with them except at mealtimes. Never sit down and talk to them about your love for God and your hope that they will love God too. Never bring them to church. Always send them with somebody else. Cuss in front of your kids. Drink wine, drink beer in front of your kids. Or maybe just have it in the icebox. They'll know what it's for. Lie to other people in front of your kids so they can learn to lie as well. Shout at your wife when you're mad at her. Scream at your husband when you're mad at him. Yell at your kids when they annoy you. Buy your kid everything you could possibly desire, hoping that that will drive it to be good. Lay down such strict rules that your kid will not be able to wait till they get out from under your control. And please don't forget this. Be sure that you ignore what you hear, all that good stuff that you hear at church, so that your kids will rapidly learn that if it's not important for you, it's not important for them. And if you do any of these things, or if you do all of these things in your home, get ready. Prepare to shed some heavy tears as your children drift away from God. But if they do drift away, or if they have drifted away, here's what you do. You dedicate yourself to becoming the Christian person you should have been years ago. And you dedicate yourself to praying for that kid every day of your life, even if it takes years and years. And if you do those things, God will open your kid's heart. And your kid will return to the loving arms of his heavenly Father. And then you and God can have a party. Shall we pray? Father, we're touching on truths from your word here that come very close to home. Help us to understand that you are a loving heavenly Father, and that even some of your children have gone astray. And for any who have children like that in the audience, let them find their hope and their expectation in your love and your grace for their kids. Seal to each person in this audience whatever it is that you wanted them to hear from your word today. We ask it in Christ's name.